Thank you for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. A Glimpse of the Kingdom can remain free because of generous donors like you. If you'd like to donate, feel free to do so online, or you can send payments through Facebook Messenger. Don't forget to tell your friends about it so that they can enjoy this ministry as well. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any podcasts.
You can listen to my daddy every single day, like in the gym, in the car, or just at home. Glimpse of the Kingdom is awesome!
Hello, thank you for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I am David Pendergrass. There's a guy I listen to online sometimes. His name is Steven Crowder. He has a website and YouTube channel called Louder with Crowder. He's a 30-year-old American-Canadian comedian, but also a conservative guy. And he can speak 100 miles an hour and say some real crass things. But overall, he's very sharp. And I first discovered him a while back because he would go on college campuses, university campuses too, and say, he had a big banner, and it would say something like, "I'm pro-life, change my mind." Or "I'm pro-guns, change my mind." Or "I think there's two genders, change my mind." And he would just have a conversation, a normal conversation at a table with a microphone, and anybody could come up and start chatting with him. So they came and sat down and just had a conversation. He'd do this with person after person, and I thought it was outstanding to be able to just sit there and dialogue. And of course, some people in the crowd would scream and cuss and whatever. But most people just usually kept their cool. And he would I found him overwhelmingly compelling. I thought he had thought this stuff through a lot and knew what his answers were. I don't appreciate, of course, and if you listen to him, he uses language some and this and that. But overall, I think he's a smart guy, and also I really appreciate his sense of humor. The other day, he had someone on his YouTube channel called Top Objections to Christianity with Mark Driscoll. And Mark Driscoll, it's interesting he had Mark Driscoll of all the things. Mark Driscoll, if you know Church Land, Church World, he's a pretty well-known name. If you don't know Church World, then that's okay. Who cares? But in 1996, Driscoll co-founded Mars Hill Church in Seattle, Washington, and it grew and grew. For 30 years and had, about 14,000 members, I guess, and had all these locations and whatever. But there were numerous complaints that he was overwhelmingly domineering and said sexist things, and on and on it went. And there was tons of things like that. Eventually, the board of the movement and the church that he founded basically fired him. They said, "You have to step down from the board of Acts 29 network of churches." And then he resigned from Mars Hill Church just a couple months afterwards. That was in October of 2014. Anyway, he left, and they disbanded the whole church. So everything came crumbling down, everything. And then he went off into this nothing for a while, but now he started a new church in Arizona, which, not surprising. It's exactly what I'm sure he'll keep doing. But anyway, the fact that he's on Louder with Crowder now was very intriguing, because I thought, what a great way to make himself more socially relevant again is to get on Louder with Crowder. And in this discussion, he talks about the top objections to Christianity, and he said how he did this. He had a company or people he hired to interview enormous amount of people, thousands and thousands of people, and asked them, do you disbelieve or believe in Christianity? If you disbelieve, why? And he said something that I'm not a know-it-all, but he said something I've said for years and years and years. I guess he has the data, I guess, on this survey to prove it. And that is, the top thing is intolerance. The top reason why people can't become a Christian is intolerance. I've said that for years, and the way I say it is, if you were a non-Christian, if they use the word sin, the top sin in American culture is intolerance. I completely, absolutely concur. I have experienced that for years and years and years. And that has really helped shape my preaching and my blogs and my podcasts and so forth. When I talk about how to talk to non-Christians, is to try to address those issues, because I know how pervasive that mindset is, that in general, Christians are intolerant, and you can't tell me I'm wrong. And Steven Crowder asked some questions. What do you think, how we can deal with that and so forth? And Mark Driscoll's main response is, Well, they're different. Of course, we are intolerant to some degree because, parents are intolerant about children having bad behavior. And that's true. Just what it's worth, my response would be, how do we deal with the fact that so many Christians come across as, or let me say it this way, the fact that non-Christians assume Christianity and all Christians are intolerant, and that's why they can't adopt it. Just a few quick reflections, and then I'll be done. The first thing is this. If you don't know this, you really need to get the fact that for most people who are in the younger generations, let's say they're in their 30s and below, the number one chief motivating factor of society, particularly in the far left, is how something makes you feel. It's been pushed down their throats since birth. Because people in their 40s and 50s who had children, the number one mantra they have for their children is, what? You know what it is. I just want them to be, I bet you just said happy. If you're listening to my podcast, I just want them to be happy. And that is a really, really stupid thing to say for parenting. It's a horrible idea. Crack addicts are happy. Meth addicts are happy when they've got their fix. Gangsters can be happy when their robbery went well. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Being happy in a modern sense means self-indulgent. In the classical, old-school philosophical sense that Aristotle used it meant something quite different. So when it came out all the way through our Constitution to the pursuit of happiness, it meant something very particular. And they meant something along the lines of to be fulfilled and virtuous. To be happy means to be a virtuous person who lives the fulfilled life, the good life, the right life. That is not how it's used today. Not in my experience ever. Any lecture, any talk, any conversation ever. It's never used that way anymore. To be happy means to get what I want. That's what it means. That's why it is self-indulgent. And so, since children were raised with that beating their head over and over and over and over, guess what happened? They believed it. And so we have now generations of kids and young adults who are really convinced life really is about being happy and finding their happiness, which means it's everyone else's fault if they are not happy. And this is why one of the number one things they say is, when they are not happy, is, I'm offended. I'm offended. I knew a guy, a grown man, he's older than the millennials, who bought in the same nonsense. I used to be in board meetings with him. And when he didn't like what someone said, he would yell out, I'm offended, and slam his hand on the table. And conversation came to a halt. That's all you have to say today. To end a conversation with the most normal, irrational person is just scream, I'm offended. And everyone goes, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend you. And so what happens in today's society is the first one to say I'm offended wins. Now, why would that be so powerful in today's society? That can only be powerful and only work, and people not laugh at you when you say it, is if there's enough people who do believe that being not offended is a right. Not a privilege, but a right. I've heard this on news interviews with people. I've heard this before. What about the person's right not to be offended? That has got to be one of the dumbest sentences ever uttered. We've gone crazy. For people to think it is a right, never to be offended by someone else's communication, disagreement, viewpoint. Conversation is now over. And that's why we have a whole group of people that is fomenting in the United States who cannot tolerate, who genuinely do not have the capacity to have a conversation. Because you have to agree. If you don't agree, you are offending them. If you offend them, it hurts their feelings. And it's your job to make sure their feelings aren't hurt. We have universities to have safe spaces where they serve you hot chocolate and You can have a room all to yourself and pillows and lie down in case someone gets upset. And you've heard about, probably if you didn't know this, after Trump was elected, in several major universities in the U.S., they canceled classes. They canceled tests because students couldn't cope with the fact that Donald Trump was elected. What in the world? What would happen if we could temporarily resurrect the soldiers who came back from World War II and told them this? Those who willingly went out to go fight Nazism and the brave, courageous people, and found out within a few generations there would be students, young adults, men and women, who were so overwhelmed with sorrow and offense that when the person they didn't want to be elected got elected, they needed to be coddled like little infant children. Intolerance is the number one conceivable sin because, once again, it assumes that it's your job to make sure I don't feel upset. I don't feel that my feelings are hurt. I'm never offended. And if you do anything that comes close to hurting my feelings, you are intolerant. And that's why expressions and viewpoints that are deemed intolerant nowadays means not that you disagree, but that you're homophobic, you're a bigot, you're a sexist, you're a racist. That's hate speech, and for many people, those are acts of violence. So that's where we've come to today. And when you talk about a world religion like Christianity, and any religion, by the way, any religion, all religions believe that its truth tenets are true. Of course. It's not a movement of people who like a particular taste of ice cream. Each religion is based on things that are true or false. Well, then if Christianity is true, which it is, and has various viewpoints of the reality and the worldview it has, that means anybody who has a different view than the Christian worldview is, by logical necessity, wrong. It's false. But if you tell someone they have a false view, if someone's wrong, it means, of course, you are, that's right, intolerant. So that's the background. I have to say it now. Well, I was just yes, Trump has said some horrible things. I mean, really, he's not I don't think there's any way he can possibly be a Christian. Whatever, I don't know. He said some horrible things. I'm not a pro-Trump guy, but my point of this is, I remember after Trump was elected, I was watching MSNBC or CNN or something, and they had about 500 people in this panel discussion. I mean, they had really like 10 or 12 people. And one of the guys, after it was final, went through, it was the middle of the night, you know how that finally comes through, it was 1 or 2 in the morning when they said, yeah, it's going to be Trump. He was crying. Now, he's a grown adult crying because Trump got elected. And he said, I'm at a loss for words. I'm paraphrasing, but I remember, it sounded like I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to say. But then I remember this exactly. He said, I don't know what to tell my daughter. I don't know what to do. When she asked me in the morning, Daddy, who won? Who's our president? I don't know what to tell her now. And he cried on air. He cried on air not knowing what to tell his daughter about who became the president. Because since Clinton lost, it means women can no longer be anything they want to be. Because that was the over and over, that was the message that night, is that she has to win to prove that there is no distinction in gender and anybody can win. I can't believe we've gotten to that state. And this isn't just, I'm not a very political guy. I'm really not, which is why this is the most politics I've ever talked about ever on this podcast. My point only is that demonstrates the kind of mindset that so many people have in our society now, that if we don't get it our way, they're absolutely at a loss of words. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to process disagreement, rational discourse, people having a different viewpoint. As soon as he said that, I want to said, this is what I would say to your daughter. You tell your daughter Donald Trump became the president because the Electoral College voted him in. That's what you tell him. And if she goes, Daddy, does that mean a woman can never be the president? You say, no, it doesn't mean that. It just means this time she lost. Daddy, does that mean I should quit life and commit suicide because now clearly ladies can't be equal to men? I'd say, no, honey, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Daddy, does that mean, you see my point? What? 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 So, yeah, Christians are considered intolerant. The first thing I'd say, what do I do then, David? If I'm talking to a person who says, well, David, if that's the case, and they just say, you're intolerant, the very first thing I'd say is, you're probably right. You're probably right. But before I say you're right, can you define the word intolerant for me? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by intolerant? And listen carefully to the person's answer. Well, they judge everybody. Just keep asking questions. You go, they judge everybody, okay. And what does that mean, they judge everybody? What does that mean to judge them? They just think everybody's wrong. They just hate gay people. That's usually the first one up. To which you might make a crazy face and go, well, the Bible never teaches to hate gay people, and I'm a Christian. I don't hate gay people. I don't know of any Christians who hate gay people, so I'm sorry, apparently you've experienced that or you think that, but that's completely out of step with all the experience I know of Christianity. Are there any other examples of Christians being so mean to people? So my point is, you just take it one step at a time. You listen to them. And they go, wait, you said you agree. You say, well, I agree probably because I assume by intolerant you mean they think they're right, and they think other people who have a different worldview are wrong. To which the person's probably going to say, yeah, that's right. To that you say, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's how truth works. That's how truth works. And I say that because I bet you don't think religion is based on fact. It's rather a preference. That is to say it this way, I'm wondering if you don't think religion is a knowledge claim, but a preference claim. See, most people think religions are just a manifestation of my particular preference, like I like broccoli or don't like broccoli. But that, in fact, is exactly what religion is not and cannot be. Christianity, in particular, is based solely off of various facts, like the life, teaching, death, and resurrection of Jesus. If those facts didn't occur, then it's false, regardless whether I like it or not, or want it to be true or not. So, it's true. It is intolerant of things it thinks are false. But at some point in the conversation, hopefully you can bring up this other point, my second point, which is, if by intolerant you mean no Christians are ever kind to people with whom they disagree, I would say respectfully, I completely disagree with you. Completely. And I'm disagreeing with you now. Do you feel threatened? Do you feel like I'm going to hurt you? I mean, have I done something to harm you in any way? The answer is no. I've spoken very calmly. I've never raised my voice. I've not called you a name. I've not told a your mama joke. I haven't done anything like that. So it can't be true that all Christians are intolerant and therefore they're mean. I don't find that persuasive, and I'm so sorry you have that viewpoint. I know many, many, many Christians, and there are some of the most loving, kind people possible. Are there some hateful Christians? Yep. Are there some unkind Christians? Yep, unfortunately. But when they are unkind, they're not acting Christian, that's for sure. Another, maybe the final point, is that at some point in the conversation, it would be cool if you said, if by intolerant, again, if by intolerant you mean they believe other people are wrong, that is correct. Jesus was the same way. And since Christians are supposed to model their entire lives after the value system of Jesus of Nazareth, that's why they're that way. Jesus was very, very intolerant of sin. He was very intolerant, particularly of so-called religious leaders who took advantage of people, who took advantage of those who are outcast. He was very intolerant of their behavior, and he let them know that a lot. Nevertheless, he still died for them too. He wanted them to repent and stop being that way. But that's the gospel story, that he was intolerant of sin. He's intolerant of my sin. He's intolerant of your sin. And praise God, there's a way out. Much like I'm intolerant of my children when they break my rules. I'm intolerant of that behavior. I do not tolerate that behavior. I do tolerate my children. I adore them. But I don't let them do whatever they want. That would be horrible, horrible parenting. Well, in a similar but much better way, that's how it is with God. So it's not crazy to think that Jesus could be intolerant of sin and yet still love people. Anyway, on that note, let's not be mean in our intolerance. And as usual, listen carefully when you talk to people and ask them what it is they believe and why. And hopefully you have a fruitful conversation. God bless. See you later. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you'll listen more. If you want more, go to davidpendergrass.com. There are tabs at the top that let you have access to all the podcasts I've recorded, to sermons I've done, books I've written. They're all there at davidpendergrass.com. You can also check me out on Facebook, facebook.com/glimpse of the kingdom. facebook.com/glimpse of the kingdom. And also look at my Twitter feed at glimpse the kingdom, or at Dr. D. Pendergrass, at Dr. D. Pendergrass. There's tons of ways reached out. I hope you will. Send me your questions, send me your comments. If you'd like to support the ministries of Glimpse of the Kingdom, you can also find ways to give online on davidpendergrass.com. If you'd like for me to come and do some consulting, check out my website, davidpendergrassconsulting.com, and I'll be happy to come out and speak to your organization and help and train any way I can. God bless you. See you online.